thing about the Galactic Council of Sentient Species is that they've been around for a really, really long time. Like, we've forgotten more technological advancements than your species has ever made. Long. 12,000 years of interstellar cooperation tends to make you a bit smug, especially when dealing with newcomers. Enter humanity. Fresh off discovering faster-than-light travel and still carrying that unmistakable smell of fossil fuels and reality television. "Welcome to the galaxy," said Ambassador Krilt of the Centaurian hegemony, his 7 eye stalks swiveling independently as he assessed the human delegation. "We've been watching your development with interest." Captain Jack Reynolds, humanity's first ambassador to the stars, smiled tightly. "That's not creepy at all." The council chambers, housed in a massive space station at the galactic core, were packed with representatives from over 200 species. Some floated in anti-gravity tanks, others shimmered as pure energy, and a few existed primarily as complex odors. Diversity wasn't the issue here. Arrogance was. "We understand your species has only recently stopped lobbing nuclear weapons at each other," chirped Representative Nix-2, a small avian creature whose species had achieved spaceflight before humans had invented the wheel. "Actually," Jack corrected, "we invented them, contemplated global annihilation, then collectively decided maybe not and put them away. We call that growth." The chamber erupted in the galactic equivalent of condescending laughter, a mixture of clicks, whistles, electromagnetic pulses, and what sounded suspiciously like a whoopee cushion. Council leader Moxtar, an ancient being composed of crystalline structures, who had personally welcomed 17 new species to the galactic community, raised an appendage for silence. "Humans, we welcome you conditionally. You may establish one colony beyond your solar system as a probationary member. The Council will evaluate your compatibility after one standard cycle." Jack knew a patronizing offer when he heard one. But Earth needed allies, resources, and most importantly, knowledge. "We accept your generous offer, Council Leader." And that's how humanity established New Denver on the habitable moon of a gas giant in the Tau Ceti system. It was also how, exactly 6 galactic standard months later, the great misunderstanding occurred when a Zentaran trading vessel mistook the human colony's mining operations for weapons production and reported back to the Council that the violent primates were already breaking the terms of their probation. No one bothered to double-check this information. After all, what could possibly go wrong? "Tell me again why we're discussing imposing sanctions on a species that just figured out how to leave their own solar system," asked General Dex Vorplex of the Arcturan Defense Force, 6 of his tentacles wrapped around a mug of fermented nebula gas. Admiral Ziplaps of the Regelian Armada fluttered her luminescent wings in amusement. "Because they're humans. Have you seen their historical archives? These creatures spent millennia killing each other over invisible sky deities and arbitrary lines drawn on their planet's surface. The military leadership of 6 major galactic powers had convened in a secure chamber adjacent to the main council hall. On the holographic display before them rotated a 3D model of the New Denver colony. "I've studied their military capabilities," said Commander Trill of Betelgeuse Intelligence. "They're still using chemical propellants and nuclear fission. It's practically adorable." "What about those rumors that they built thousands of planet killers during their Cold War?" asked a junior officer. Admiral Ziplos dismissed this with a casual wave of her glowing appendage. "Primitive nuclear devices. We've had planet-cracking technology for 9,000 years. Besides, they never even used them in actual conflict. Cowards." Back on Earth, in the underwater headquarters of the United Earth Defense Force, a very different conversation was taking place. Colonel Mira Jackson, head of extraterrestrial intelligence, faced a room of Earth's top military minds. Her dark skin glistened with sweat, despite the climate-controlled environment. "They're watching New Denver," she said, pointing to satellite imagery showing unusual energy signatures near the colony, and not in a friendly way. General Diego Ortega, a weathered veteran of the water wars of 2039, frowned. "Are we sure?" The Council seemed receptive, if a bit condescending. "The Council, maybe," replied Admiral Tom Bulldog Chen, leaning forward. but my contacts in the diplomatic corps have been picking up chatter. Some factions see us as unstable, dangerous, the wild cards of the galaxy. Dorelin Novak, head of xenopsychology, adjusted her glasses. It's actually quite interesting from a psychological perspective. Most galactic species evolved past their violent tendencies before developing space travel. We're the anomaly. We brought our capacity for violence with us to the stars. That's comforting, Doc, Ortega muttered. It should be, Mira countered, because if they're underestimating us based on our technology alone, they're making a critical mistake. Which is? Asked a junior officer. Buljak Chen's face split into a grin that had nothing to do with humor. They're forgetting that humans don't need fancy tech to be dangerous. We just need to be really, really pissed off. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Council made its fatal mistake. Acting on the Zentarans' faulty intelligence and centuries of ingrained superiority, they dispatched a peacekeeping force to inspect the New Denver colony. The commander of this force, General Vrax of the Pleiadian Guard, decided that an unannounced nighttime raid would be most effective. After all, how dangerous could sleeping primates be? As his ships entered New Denver's atmosphere, Vrax sent a message to his superiors. Commencing standard intimidation protocol, these primitives will understand their place by morning. His last communication would become infamous in galactic military academies for millennia to come. Dawn broke over New Denver, but it wasn't the soft light of Tau Ceti that woke the colonists. It was fire. The Pleiadian peacekeeping force had deployed sonic disruptors designed to incapacitate without killing by galactic standards. What they failed to consider was that human physiology reacted differently. The disruptors ruptured human eardrums, collapsed lungs, and turned internal organs into pulp. Governor Maya Okafor died trying to establish communication. Chief Engineer Russell Park died shielding a group of children. Dr. Leila Patel died in her lab, her research on interspecies medicine burning around her. By the time the sun fully rose, New Denver was a smoking crater. Of its 15,000 inhabitants, fewer than 300 survived, mostly those who had been working in the deep mining operations. The Pleiadians departed, mission accomplished, completely unaware that they had just made the single greatest mistake in galactic history. When the distress signal reached Earth 27 hours later, the reaction was not what the Galactic Council might have expected. There was no panic, no chaotic response, no desperate pleading. Instead, there was silence. Then, in the United Earth Parliament in Geneva, President Olivia Chen stood before the assembled representatives of humanity. The chamber was so quiet you could hear the environmental systems humming. 3 hours ago, she said, her voice steady, we received confirmation that our colony on New Denver was attacked without provocation or warning. The death toll currently stands at 14,723 souls. No gasps, no cries, just the weight of 14,723 souls pressing down on the room. The Galactic Council has not responded to our communications. Our intelligence suggests this was a sanctioned operation. President Chen paused, her eyes moving across the faces of her fellow humans. I am hereby invoking Emergency Protocol Omega. All civilian space traffic is grounded effective immediately. All military assets are now at full readiness. From the back of the chamber, Admiral Chen spoke. Madam President, permission to implement Project Prometheus? The President's eyes hardened. Permission granted, Admiral. God help them all. In orbit above Earth, dormant satellites that had been disguised as space junk for decades suddenly activated. Deep beneath the lunar surface, hangars unsealed for the first time since the Unification Wars. And in bunkers across Earth, weapons systems that officially didn't exist came online. Humanity had always been preparing for this day, not because they were paranoid, but because they were realists. The universe is a dangerous place, and humans had learned through bitter experience to hope for the best while planning for the worst. The emergency session continued through the night. As dawn broke over Geneva, the Parliament unanimously approved the Declaration of Interstellar Intent, a document that would soon become known throughout the galaxy simply as the Warning. Its final line would be etched into the consciousness of every spacefaring species for generations to come. We did not bring war to the stars, but we will end it if forced. Ambassador Jack Reynolds stood alone before the Galactic Council. No aides, no security. Just a single human in a simple black uniform, a small pin on his lapel, the last photograph transmitted from New Denver before the attack. "Honorable representatives," he began, his voice carrying easily through the cavernous chamber. "I come before you not to make demands, but to offer a choice." Council leader Mockstar's crystalline body shimmered with impatience. "The incident at your colony was regrettable but necessary. Your people were developing restricted technologies." "That is false," Jack replied simply. "But I'm not here to debate. I'm here to inform you that Earth has activated its defensive protocols. We request the immediate withdrawal of all alien vessels from our solar system and a 50-light-year exclusion zone around Earth and its remaining territories." The chamber erupted in jeers and laughter. "An exclusion zone? With what fleet? With what authority?" mocked Admiral Ziplock. "Your species can barely maintain one colony." Ambassador Krilt's eye stalks quivered with amusement. "Perhaps we were too hasty in allowing you to join galactic society. You clearly aren't ready." Jack's expression didn't change. "This is not a request for permission. This is a courtesy notice. The exclusion zone will be enforced starting at 800 Earth Standard Time tomorrow, with or without your cooperation." Council leader Mockstar rose to his full 3-meter height. "Ambassador Reynolds, your threats are both inappropriate and impotent. The Council has voted to place Earth under quarantine until your species learns proper interstellar etiquette. All human vessels will be impounded. All human communications will be monitored." Jack nodded slowly, as if he had expected nothing less. "I understand. Then I have one final diplomatic responsibility to fulfill." He reached into his pocket and removed a small device, placing it on the floor before him. "What is that?" demanded Nixutu, feathers bristling. "This is an old human custom called returning the declaration of war," Jack said quietly. He pressed a button on the device. It projected a hologram of New Denver burning. "You have declared war on humanity. We are simply acknowledging receipt." As Jack turned to leave, Admiral Ziplos called after him. "Your species will be fortunate to survive the next solar cycle." Jack paused at the doorway. "No, Admiral, you will be fortunate if yours does." Back on Earth, as Jack's diplomatic shuttle departed the Council station, Operation Prometheus commenced. It wasn't flashy. There were no massive fleet movements, no dramatic declarations. Instead, 37 seemingly civilian vessels throughout Council space simultaneously altered their transponder codes. Embedded agents who had been posing as human traders, tourists, and researchers for months received their activation signals. In his command center beneath the Mariana Trench, Admiral Chen watched the operation unfold on a massive holographic display. "All cells reporting ready, Madam President. Awaiting your final authorization." President Chen's face on the screen was solemn. "The Council has made their choice, Admiral. Commence Operation Prometheus. God forgive us." Chen nodded to his communications officer. "Send the code phrase." Throughout the galaxy, human operatives received the same message. Remember New Denver. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came when the Regelian homeworld lost contact with its orbital defense network. One moment, everything was operational. The next, silence. Admiral Ziplos was awakened from her sleep cycle with the news. "Impossible," she chittered. "The system has redundancies upon redundancies." "Nevertheless, Admiral," her aide reported, "all 27 platforms are offline." "Launch the reserve fleet," she ordered, "and get me the Council leader." But the Council leader was dealing with his own crisis. The Centaurian banking system had mysteriously crashed, wiping out records of trillions in assets. Ambassador Krilt was frantically trying to restore order as riots broke out across 7 worlds. On Betelgeuse Prime, the planet's atmospheric processes suddenly reversed their cycle, flooding major cities with unbreathable gases. Commander Trill ordered an emergency evacuation. only to discover that the planetary shield, designed to keep out harmful radiation, had been reprogrammed to keep everyone in. Throughout Council space, critical systems failed. Defense networks went offline, communication relays corrupted, navigation beacons broadcast false coordinates, sending ships jumbling into each other. And in every case, the same calling card was left behind, a simple Earth flag, with the date of the New Denver attack. "How is this possible?" demanded Moxthar during an emergency council session. "They're primitives. They don't have this capability." A junior analyst, braver than most, spoke up. "Sir, we've been analyzing their attack patterns. They're not using advanced technology. They're using our own systems against us." "Explain," Moxthar ordered. "Human hackers, sir. They've been infiltrating our networks for months, planting backdoors, studying vulnerabilities. They didn't need to match our technology, they just needed to understand it." As if to punctuate this point, the Council chamber's environmental controls suddenly shifted, dropping the temperature to levels uncomfortable for most species. Then a voice echoed through the chamber, Admiral Chen's voice. "This is Admiral Thomas Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You are experiencing a small demonstration of humanity's reach. We have infiltrated every major system in Council space. We could kill billions with a keystroke. Instead, we offer terms." A holographic document appeared before each Council member. "The terms are non-negotiable," Chen continued. 1. Acknowledge the unprovoked massacre at New Denver. 2. Those responsible will be surrendered to Earth for justice. 3. The Council will recognize Earth's sovereignty and a 50-light-year exclusion zone. 4. Reparations for New Denver will be paid. Moxthar's crystalline structure vibrated with rage. "Or what, human?" "Or we finish what we started," Chen replied simply. "You have 6 Earth hours to comply. We are not bluffing." As the transmission ended, reports flooded in of human military vessels appearing at strategic locations throughout Council space. Ships far more advanced than anything Earth was thought to possess. "They've been hiding their true capabilities," whispered Nixtu. "All this time." "No," said the junior analyst. "These are our ships, captured and repurposed through our own automated systems. They didn't build an armada, they stole ours." As the Council frantically debated their options, humanity waited, patient, resolute. The 6-hour deadline approached. With 10 minutes remaining, the Council capitulated. 5 years later, the galaxy was a very different place. Jack Reynolds, now serving as Earth's permanent representative to the reformed Galactic Assembly, the Council having been dissolved by unanimous vote, sat in a garden on the new assembly station. Beside him was Ambassador Krilt, their relationship having evolved from antagonism to grudging respect. "Your people continue to surprise us," Krilt admitted, his eye stalks moving in a pattern Jack had come to recognize as thoughtful. "The defense system you developed for the Betelgeusians, most species would have kept such technology for themselves." Jack shrugged. "Humans understand better than most the value of protecting your home." "There's a saying spreading through the galaxy now," Krill said, a hint of amusement in his translator. "Never make the nuclear apes angry. Some find it offensive." "And you?" "I find it prudent," Krilt replied. "Your species accomplished in days what would have taken others centuries, not through superior technology, but through, what do you call it?" "Spite," Jack offered with a small smile. "Humans are remarkably productive when we're angry." Across the station, in what had once been the military planning room where General Vorplex and Admiral Ziplex had so casually dismissed humanity, a new generation of galactic leaders was receiving a history lesson. "The human incident, as it's now called, teaches us 3 important principles," lectured Commander Trill, one of the few former Council military leaders to retain a position of authority. "First, technological superiority is meaningless without understanding. Second, underestimating a species based on their apparent development is catastrophic. And third," Trill displayed an image of New Denver's memorial, now rebuilt as both a colony and a solemn reminder. "Actions have consequences. The humans could have destroyed us all. They had the capability and, some would argue, the justification. Instead, they showed a restraint that many of us failed to appreciate they possessed. In Earth's Mariana Trench headquarters, now serving as a joint human-alien research facility, Admiral Chen, retired but still respected, led a tour for alien dignitaries. "This is where we coordinated Operation Prometheus," he explained, pointing to a now obsolete command center. "Nothing special, just humans doing what humans do." "Which is?" asked a young Pleiadian diplomat. Her species now working desperately to make amends for their role in the New Denver attack. Chen considered the question. "Adapting, overcoming. We spent most of our history fighting each other. It made us very, very good at figuring out how to win against seemingly impossible odds." "A frightening evolutionary trait," observed the diplomat. "Only if you're our enemy," Chen replied with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, "which is why we're so pleased to count your people among our friends now." As night fell across the galaxy, billions of beings looked up at their respective skies with a new understanding. The stars were still beautiful, still full of wonder and possibility, but now they carried a new lesson, one that would be taught to children of all species for generations to come. In the vast darkness between the stars, there exists a small blue planet. Its people are young by galactic standards, still rough around the edges, still learning their place in the cosmic order. They are capable of great compassion, remarkable creativity, and breathtaking ingenuity. But whatever you do, don't make them angry. Because as the galaxy learned the hard way, there's nothing more dangerous than a species that looked annihilation in the face, invented the means to bring it about, then chose to step back from that precipice, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. A species like that understands exactly how fragile existence is and exactly how to end it if necessary. A species like that deserves your respect, or at the very least, your caution.